Hi, this is Amir Anzur, and welcome to the Tech Destination Pakistan podcast, brought to you by Pakistan Software Export Board. Today, we have a very special guest, Sam Beni, who came out to Islamabad for the first time in April for the Direct Foreign Investment Forum, the DFDI, and we're going to hear about what his views were coming out to Pakistan for the first time. But more importantly, he's worked on the UK Tech Nation scene where he helped the number of unicorn startups go from 6 to 149 over his reign, being one of the part of the leadership team. So I'm going to let him introduce himself, but he is a really sharp guy, a real futurist, and those are the type of people that we wanted to bring to the DFDI. And so on this podcast, we're going to hear from him. What is the future of AI? What is the future that governments should be investing in so that we can give our citizens the best hope in surviving this digital economy, the new economy that's emerging. We're going to ask him what Pakistan can do to develop more unicorns, just like the UK did. What are the pros and cons of our country? And take it from there. So, Sam, give us a bit of your background, and then let's jump into it.
Well, my pleasure. Well, thank you for inviting me back. It's a pleasure to be here. Absolutely. So let me give you a quick introduction about myself. People usually call me a serial entrepreneur, but I'm not really a big fan of the word serial entrepreneur. But I'm an accidental founder, essentially. Due to my background, because I went to UK initially as an asylum seeker, I couldn't work, I couldn't study, I couldn't even open a bank account for a number of years. I didn't know at the time. So I had no other option than actually become an entrepreneur. And lucky me, my first venture was somewhat a success. And I learned a lot with the first venture, which was a web infrastructure before really being a founder and being an entrepreneur was being a rock star, right? Because of personalities like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and so on, right? Back in the day, the image of being a founder was like, hey, you couldn't find a job, which was true in my case. I couldn't really find a job because I couldn't legally work. So I had to really dabble myself into entrepreneurship. And a few ventures further, mostly in AI and in deep tech. I was involved in establishing the AI accelerator at Intel, worked very closely with the UK government on a number of policies, especially around AI policies, AI, ultimately regulations, as well as I had the opportunity to be part of Tech Nation, which was instrumental in terms of the growth of the ecosystem in the UK. As you mentioned, when Tech Nation was formed, UK had around 6 unicorns in the whole nation. And a decade forward, UK had one of the most successful, ultimately, tech ecosystems with over 149 unicorns. So we've gone from 6 to 149 in over a decade. And also, if you look into successes, we have the third most successful tech ecosystems essentially we are on par with New York. So after San Francisco, which is always number one because of the amount of capital being injected into San Francisco's ecosystem, we are par somewhat second or third with New York, which if you look into the kind of like the phenomenal growth, this is fantastic what we achieved in the UK. And if you look into the countries, in comparison between UK, US, and China, there are 3 nations who've got over 100 unicorns in their tech ecosystems, right? Unicorns are the companies that are valued over $1 billion. This is China, US, and UK. But if you look at the population of, for example, US is around 400 million, 360 million. And you've got China with 1.6 billion almost, and UK with almost 70 million, so 69 million population. We are really punching above our weight. And the question is like, how we have achieved this just in less than a decade.
Wow. So yeah, what were some of the things that the United Kingdom did that you think really helped the ecosystem grow? Because UK is known for its innovation. It's a innovation hub. But what are some of the things that it does that we as Pakistan and others listening in, other countries listening in can say, okay, these are some great steps to produce unicorns or produce more successful companies. They don't even have to go to unicorn level, but successful startups.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the key factors when it comes to ecosystem building, what we'll call the key ingredients. So those individuals who are ultimately responsible for establishing tech ecosystems like yourselves and your colleagues, you essentially are, in my humble opinion, like cooks, right? You've got a set of ingredients to be able to build a self-sustaining and highly explosive in terms of like the growth of a startup ecosystem. So as a main ingredient in terms of a startup ecosystem is talent. Many countries that don't have that, right? Because they don't have the innovation hotspots, they don't have the universities, they don't have the workforce to be able to actually create a self-sustaining ecosystem. Some of those countries are in GCC, so therefore they have to import the talent from, for example, Pakistan, India, or other countries to be able to actually sustain their ecosystem. But then the key area for UK is that if you look into London, for example, London has got the best universities in proximity to London, right? So you've got Oxford, Cambridge, you've got UCL, you have Imperial, you've got King's. So we are actually, having so many great talent being kind of produced locally. And many of this previously, before the tech ecosystem was really established, were kind of like, injected into banking, into big four consultancies. They were going overseas, going to United States or going back to their country. But by establishing a very good kind of self-sustaining tech ecosystem, we can absorb some of these talents into your ecosystem. So in comparison between, for example, what we've done in the United Kingdom to Pakistan, Pakistan has got immense talent. And I always said it. You have over 250 million population, of which as 200 million of them are connected to the internet. You're an English-speaking country. That means that you essentially can connect to the global economy as well as the overall global tech ecosystem, which is much easier than other nations. And also you have over 1 million workforce that are working in the IT sector. By especially what we are seeing with the AI boom of the last few years, upskilling these individuals to be able to take a next step in the local ecosystem is a key factor. So coming back to what we have achieved essentially in comparison between UK and US as an example, in San Francisco ecosystem, let's say like how it was formed, right? So when it was formed in San Francisco, for example, Intel, my former employer, they wanted to look for like a cheap place to be able to build their factory. So they ended up, finding a place in the Bay Area in San Francisco. And because of the supply chain of Intel, other companies needed to be close to them. So therefore, over years and years and years, this kind of like very organic ecosystem was formed, right? And therefore the capital was coming their way because they could see the growth in the capital of these ventures. So, but that was an organic matter. Like many of the countries, including UK and Pakistan, cannot really go through this organic aspect because it takes really, really long time to build it, right? So that's why we can't really look at San Francisco as the as a main comparison to the other ecosystems, such as, let's say, Lahore or Islamabad in this case, or even London in this case. So you have to kind of have this private-public partnership to be able to establish that ecosystem and centralizing some of those connections between the venture, between the investors, between the founders, upskilling the workforce to be able to build a self-sustaining ecosystem.
So is capital very important? I mean, I think one of the challenges that you have in setting up a company in let's say Islamabad compared to San Francisco or London is that in San Francisco you can run into someone that's got spare cash and then they will invest in yours. Is is capital like a core to being successful? And if you don't have it, how do countries like Pakistan plug into the capital system?
Very good question. So one of the other ingredients after talent is essentially capital, right? Because without capital, it's very hard to be able to build early stage scale ups, right? To be able to actually push these companies to some sort of a success, unless they are going after a very specific high revenue options. And some of the areas that you can actually establish what we've done in London. In London, I mean, if you look into like almost 20 years ago, we didn't have any, almost like only handful, like similar to what essentially Pakistan is experiencing, but like in less than 20 VCs. We had almost the same ecosystem in UK. I mean, it's hard to live now, but that was the case back in the day. And so how that's changed? How that's changed that we essentially are now second or third tech ecosystem. We built very specific programs to be able to lure, attract some of these investors from elsewhere, especially from the American ecosystem, to bring them on with showcasing our startups. We have the soft landing programs for them to be able to build like a satellite office for some VCs that never had an external office, right? To look into Europe as an option, because we looked into London as a gateway to Europe, not just UK ecosystem, because by its own it's a small ecosystem in comparison with American ecosystem. So for VCs to say like, hey, you can look into London as a gateway to the ecosystem, that was a way that we could attract them to come in and build up their satellite office. We help them as again, there is a public private partnership is essential for actually accelerating a tech ecosystem. In this case, helping as a government entity to bring on these investors externally, similar to what you've done, Amir, with DFDI, of bringing investors globally to come and visit Pakistan, myself one of them, on experiencing what Pakistan has got to offer in terms of the ecosystem is a critical aspect, right? And more of these efforts can really help in terms of bringing in capital into the country. One aspect, obviously, is the local capital existing in the local ecosystems. Yeah, I'm sure you've got amazing banks inside the country. Is to actually educate them to learn about how to establish a venture arm to be able to look into local ecosystems is a key factor. But at the same time, bringing the experience externally. One of the key aspects again in terms of Pakistan that really is interesting, is very unique to Pakistan in this case, is that you've got a huge diaspora outside of Pakistan that are very patriotic towards their country. They love their country. They want to always give back to their country. And when you open up the avenue for them to come back and give back, many of these are coming from the big tech. Many of them are coming from the banking. Many of them are VCs themselves, but they're never looking into their actual homeland as an option. So by bringing these individuals as essentially the flag bearer, right? The individuals that they can be, the champions of their own country, to be able to bring maybe like I could be an associate in a venture capital, but I'm Pakistani in origin, but I can go out and convince my GP to take a ticket and come to Pakistan to visit the tech ecosystem. It's possible, right? So by actually activating this huge diaspora that you have externally, I think this is your biggest asset as Pakistan. There's really highly motivated individuals outside of the country that are willing to go above and beyond to help their own homeland.
No, that's an excellent point. I mean, two facts that I often quote is we have more people born in Pakistan every year than the population of Finland, and our diaspora is bigger than the population of Switzerland or Sweden. So it's like 10.9 million. So yeah, and it's a first. So what would you came out to Pakistan? What were you thinking before you came out? So like,
yeah, sure.
So we get that.
I'm from a neighboring country. I'm from a neighboring country. I was born in Iran.
Iran. Okay, so like you have that perception issue that Pakistan has. I assume like even coming from Iran, you might have like what was your perception of Pakistan, and then what was it like when you came out to Islamabad and your experience?
I think many countries have got brand issue, right? And Pakistan is not unique in this case. I think the region really has got the brand issue when it comes to the Western countries. So when we talk about Pakistan, or in fact any of the countries that end up with "stan" at the end, there's a wrong perception in the Western countries, right? Because they think it's unsafe. They think there is a lot of issues in those countries, and therefore, if, for example, I said like I want to travel to Pakistan, my family and friends could be worried in this case, quite frankly, right? As as an individual who's looking into this ecosystem. But these problems are not unique, again, to Pakistan. There are really great examples out there that they have shifted their perception of the country internationally, right? I had actually some of this as a discussion with the CEO of Dubai Future Foundation, His Excellency Khalfan, about this actually. And it's interesting. It was giving discussion around his experience around 20 years ago in Boston. He said that in 20 years ago, when he was in Boston studying, he said essentially to his professors and colleagues that this is where he's from, and nobody knew where Dubai was, right? And nobody knew where UAE is. And he was saying, like, he's close to Iraq. And at the time, there was a Gulf War, right, between US and Iraq. And said, like, oh, I'm close to Iraq. And then I was like, oh, wow, dangerous place. You shouldn't really hang out with this guy. And 20 years later, when we talk about Dubai, is everyone wants to be in Dubai. If you go to US, everyone wants to travel to Dubai. It's a tourist town. There's a lot of business happening here. And the image shifted in less than 20 years, like 15 years. The image shifted from like, oh, a tiny random country next to a war-torn area to like, one of the number ones kind of tourist towns with lots of business and booming tech ecosystem. So when it comes to brand management, it's an aspect that can be managed, quite frankly, internationally. It's not, there are many examples like that actually have shifted their brand externally, right? And I think what you're doing, Amir, with your organization as tech destination is a key aspect in this case, because you're going internationally, you're going on a tour to be able to actually change the mindset around doing business in Pakistan, which is the a foundational thing for changing the brand.
Yeah, there's so much we can do, but yeah, that we're always looking for ideas on how to innovate, and that's one of the reasons I got you selfishly on this podcast to say, look, what should we be doing? What would you be doing if you were Chief Marketing Officer of Pakistan or CEO of Pakistan Software Export Board? How would you get more unicorns, or maybe even just the brand management aspect of the country better? That's one key question that I would still put to you.
Yeah, so in this case, numbers are numbers, right? You cannot go around it. The numbers are numbers. So you have a highly motivated young population. I believe like 65% of the Pakistan's population is under 35, which means that they are really technically enabled, right? I would say even vast majority of them are AI enabled in this case, given how popular AI is. And so in that case, what that means, that, when individuals are like tech enabled, they grow up with the internet, they are globally connected, right? So essentially every Pakistani living abroad or inside the country is an ambassador of the country, if that makes sense, right? Given how connected we are globally. But again, coming back to that centralization of planning is a key aspect for the government, for the local government or federal government, in this case, to be able to ensure that they have a strategy, ensure that they have that program in place, that they bring on the celebrities, the YouTubers, anyone who can be influencing the overall their following, of saying that Pakistan is not about what you think, but rather a tech ecosystem. And the numbers are the numbers. You have over 1 million IT professionals. Many countries, their own population is less than that. So you have an immense potential. It's tapping to those potential, and leading is another matter. That actually you're on that direction.
Okay, excellent. And now I'm going to ask you about, you're a futurist. You invest in many companies. You're always thinking ahead of where the world is going. So what would you do to help the young population of Pakistan or countries like Pakistan? I just say Pakistan because I happen to be working here, but basically it could be Iran, it could be UK, it could be developing world. Or do you think there's a difference between developed world, and San Francisco? Or would you say that every one of us should be on a similar curriculum?
Let me give you a data that is mind-blowing, right? Absolutely mind-blowing. um, if you combine all key hotspots in tech, all of them. So what I mean by hotspots is like the key kind of tech ecosystems, right? It includes New York, San Francisco, the whole Bay Area, London, Singapore, somewhat Dubai, Berlin, Paris, all of these, key hubs globally, is less than 1% of the total population of the planet. That means that 99% of the planet, they don't have access, they don't have the proximity to the success that they require to be a founder like Elon Musk, a founder like Jeff Bezos, a founder like, because all of these founders and personalities we follow result of their ecosystem. Now, Francisco, I'm putting back in South Africa. Would he be Elon Musk of today? I guarantee you wouldn't, right? And what I'm saying here is that I'm not promoting everyone to travel to San Francisco and reside there. What I'm trying to say is that those days are over, right? Because I truly believe in that, the next Elon Musk, the next Jeff Bezos, the next, Bill Gates shouldn't come from San Francisco, shouldn't even come from London, should come from ecosystems that we least expect, right? For example, like those ecosystems that have got the capability of producing them, but they haven't done that yet. And the reason for that is because they haven't been enabled. Like ecosystems such as like Lahore. Lahore, you have a huge city with a great ecosystem, but essentially that hasn't been yet fully enabled. And I truly believe that the next personalities like those that are like the mega kind of like rock stars in the tech ecosystem will come out of those ecosystems that we least expect. And the beauty of that is because now we live in a different world. It's not 20 years ago that barely internet was in place that many of these personalities actually came out of, right? Because if you look into all of these, multi-billionaires that we all know about are a result of the dot-com bubble, right? But what we are seeing right now is that AI, many of these AI solutions has enabled many young people to create solutions that you least expect in the least, like the areas that you least expect to come out of, right? Such as for example, Pakistan in a global sense. Of course, you have as a Pakistan, the local pride of great tech ecosystem, great founders. But what I'm trying to say is that that proximity to key hubs were kind of essential previously, but that's not the case day by day. And I believe that 99% that we said that they weren't enabled to, essentially be successful is shifting now. That 99% is slowly coming down and coming down and coming down, and that's where Pakistan can shine.
Yeah, one of the challenges that Pakistan has is the passport doesn't make it easy to travel. So, and now that opportunity is a lot easier. I think you're in Dubai at the moment, and I'm in Islamabad. But I reached out to you for this podcast. I can connect and do this. Part of the reason I do this podcast is it's safe. It's a cheaper budget for me to reach out and connect with people from a marketing point of view of marketing Pakistan. And that opportunity wasn't there, let's say 20 years ago or so. And now, it's just getting better and better and better for us that we can do it. So that's great. So thank you for all the points and tips that you've given. Any last words that you would say to people of Pakistan that are looking to build the next, well, I would say the first unicorn, and also not even a unicorn, because I think going from zero to $1,000 is as difficult as going from 1,000 to 100,000 and 100,000 to a million and a million plus. So like when we look at what a unicorn is, all these companies that have the unicorn, they consume so much money. They're actually loss making, like
Yes.
Uber
Yes.
was, and all these companies like PayPal and all these, they lost a lot of money. And so what we can do is do this that they're loss making, which is not the business model that makes sense in a lot of the part of the world, which is this thing, right?
I agree. I think in that case, again, we cannot really compare ourselves with San Francisco's ecosystem, right? Because situations are different. The reason for that is because if we look into essentially these companies that are formed out of, let's say, San Francisco, New York, London, they have an exit scenario, right? Because as a venture capitalist, when I invest into a company, I want to see that company to be sold, or I can, liquidate my assets within 5 years' time, as an example. So, does that exist in Pakistan? Is the M&A, community strong? Do we have an exit scenario into larger enterprises, or is there like an IPO situation in Pakistan? Is the question, right? Obviously, when I say like ecosystem building, it means that from 0 to 100, right? So we need to essentially build that step by step, brick by brick, to have all of this, individuals that previously were looking into as innovation ecosystem or a startup ecosystem as an option for growth of the country, now looking into it as an option. And quite frankly, Amir, because many of your listeners are decision makers in the country, I want to make it very straightforward for them that you either invest and prioritize your tech innovation ecosystem, or you would be losing in the next 100 years, right? Because now, as the 21st century is no longer about let's have the XYZ button, or like let's do like have this strategic resources. It's all about your tech ecosystem, and we can see that with the movement and what the Chinese are doing essentially, and what they have achieved for the past 50 years, right? And that can be obviously from a tech ecosystem perspective, a framework for countries that can see from like going from 0 to hero, and investment into your ecosystem, into your young population, into upskilling them, into AI, into emerging technologies, into startups, in venture capital. All of these are needed and essential to be able to get that. But I truly believe that you can, right? Because you have got the canvas. Many of the countries, they don't even have the canvas. They have to go and find it. So in this case, you have the canvas, you have the paint. You just need to paint on it, and that's where we are as an ecosystem in Pakistan.
Awesome. Thank you so much, especially for the optimism, because it's always appreciated. Sam, Beni, where can people find you and connect with you if they want to reach out for you for other projects or information?
Sure. Very happy to help. I'm very easy to find. Just Google me, Sam Beni, SAMBENI, and I should be coming up. You can also find me on LinkedIn. You can follow me. Happy to help you if I can.
Sam Beni on the Tech Destination Pakistan podcast. It's been Amir and Zor. Thank you so much for tuning in, and catch you on the next one.